Okay.
Give me 10 minutes. Just kidding.
Just be lost.
Okay. When I was in the 4th grade, I joined the future problem solving team at my elementary school. Sounds really cool, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Rachel. So, future problem solving, or FPS, is basically a competitive problem solving in a written format. All right, I did the written team competitions, and so we got put into teams of 3 to 5 people, and throughout the year we would practice and study and train, and then each year we would compete at regional level. And how the competition worked is like this. Your team gets locked into a classroom for 2 hours. You are not allowed to have any reference material with you, or like food or electronics or anything that you could use to cheat. And in those 2 hours, we had to work as a team to read this 1-page scenario. All right, it was a story of a situation that was set at least 20 years in the future. So you take this scenario, and from that, you need to come up with 20 possible problems. So in that story, what could possibly go wrong? Once you write out those 20 problems in the proper format, you have to choose one underlying problem. All right, and then step 3 was to come up with 20 solutions to that problem. Step 4 was then to choose the best solution, and the last step was that you had to write out your final solution, the best solution. All right, that was it. 2 hours working together. It was a lot of fun, right? Then those packets were collected and they were judged according to really specific criteria and rules. And that was basically what a future problem solving competition looked like. If you ranked in the top 3 in your level at regionals, you got to go on to state competition. And if you ranked number 1 at state, you got to go on to internationals or world competition. Like I said, I started in 4th grade and I competed all the way through high school. It was a lot of fun to work with the team, and the competitions were the best. But when I was in 6th grade, my mom caught wind of another part of the FPS competition. It was part of the program, but this was an individual short story writing competition. There were rules to follow, there was a topic to guide you, but basically, if you submitted your short story by the deadline, you were judged and ranked at the state level. Well, I was in 6th grade. I didn't love writing just to write. I liked the team stuff, but I wasn't really interested in writing the short story. But I was in 6th grade, so my mom got her way. I wrote the short story reluctantly, and what happened? I ranked 2nd in the state. So I got my ribbon and I went home. Then comes 7th grade. Guess who got her way again? My mom. Okay, so I wrote a short story again, reluctantly. I turned it in at the last possible minute, and what happened? I won. I got 1st place at state, which was exciting and wonderful, really. It meant that I had the opportunity to compete at internationals. That year it was in Atlanta, Georgia. The school board ended up covering my costs, and my parents came along. My story did not rank at the international level, but I got to compete with a group of other individuals, and all in all, it was a really great opportunity. But here's the thing. I still didn't want to keep writing short stories. Was I good at it? Yeah, probably. But I didn't really enjoy it at all. And I think this tends to be an issue when we think about our calling or what we're supposed to do, our vocation. If we're good at it, especially when we're younger, we tend to get pushed in that direction. So, in terms of writing, so here's paper, pencil. So there's writing. Was I good at it? Oh yeah. Did I like it? Did I love it? Nope. Not really. I guess I was just stubborn. Did I still do it? Did I still write? Yes. But I had choices to make. All right? I believe that just because we're good at something doesn't mean that we're definitely supposed to be doing it. I think it's really important to be aware of these things and to consider how it is we're using those skills, because if it's a gift that you have, you probably are using it in some way. I mean, just because I did not write those stories for that competition every year didn't mean that I wasn't writing. I was writing all the time for school, and I was still competing with the team. I wrote a lot, just not in the way that some people wanted me to or even encouraged me to. This is where vocation can get tough. Here's the thing. Vocation used to be used as a term for just a few really special elite people. All right, vocation was about a few who were set apart. And what Paul was trying to clarify in our Bible reading today, it isn't that some people are called by God and others are not. It's that everyone is called by God. That all of these gifts, all of these talents, all of your skills, they all come from God. Verse 11, the last verse Alyssa read, said, all of these are activated by one and the same Spirit, who allots to each one individually, just as the Spirit chooses. So it doesn't matter if you are called to be a pastor, or a teacher, or a nurse, or a janitor, or a football player. Nothing is better than any other thing. It all comes from God. So if it's all given to us by God, and if having a skill doesn't mean that we have to use it in an expected way, where does that leave us? It means that we still have choices to make. God gave us these pieces of ourselves, and we have to figure out how they fit into God's world. So we have two things to consider, all right? The first is our inner call. Inner call. All right. Oh, there should be 5. All right, there we go. There you go. Okay, so our inner call is about who we are and what's inside of us, all right? What are those gifts, those services, those activities placed inside you by the Holy Spirit? They might be things that you're really good at. Like, for me, there was writing. All right, so there's a little pencil, which doesn't look like a pencil, but they could also be things that you really like doing, even if maybe you're not really good at them. Like, I really like to snowboard, but I'm not very good at it. That's a snowboard. Okay.
I see it.
Thank you. There might also be things that are really important to you, things that elicit concern or excitement in you. An example for me, I'm going to make the recycling symbol because taking care of the earth and being eco-friendly and conscious is something that's important to me. All right, so we have our inner call, right? The second thing we need to consider is the outer call. All right? Okay, that is bugging me. Outer, our outer call. So if we're down here, and this is our inner call, we have the whole world outside of us to consider as well. And what we mean is, what are the needs of the world outside of ourselves? Because that's really important. If it were only about me and my inner call, what purpose would there ever be? Things in the outer call could include people or animals that don't have their basic needs cared for. Maybe if you think about homeless, or those who are hungry, might be part of our outer call. There are general roles in society that I think need to be filled, like teachers or law enforcement or doctors. Right. Stethoscope. We need doctors, right? Or medical professionals, I should say. Also, part of our outer world, how we treat our resources, how we treat the earth. So this is the, see there's Europe, you get that? Yeah, okay. There's the earth. planet Earth. All right. And I know that there's so many things that are part of that outer call that are not on that screen. But this gives you an idea to get your minds thinking about what our neighbors and the world around us needs. So we have our inner call, right, which we talked about. And we have our outer call. Two separate things. So, where does vocation land in all of this? Vocation is right there in the middle. Vocation is where our inner call overlaps with the outer call. Not to say that this is easy to figure out, okay? Because I really don't think that that's true. But how do our pieces fit into God's world? That is the question at hand. I heard this doctor speaking a couple weeks ago, and something he said really struck me. His name is Dr. Daniels, and he's a pediatric neurosurgeon at Mayo. This guy does brain surgery on children for a living, okay? And he said, I don't feel special because of what I do. I feel special that I found what I am supposed to do. And I think he has a really great point. He talked about how this was never his career goal, all right? He didn't go into college thinking, I really want to do surgery on kids' brains. But as he followed his interests and his skills, he started to realize that this is exactly what made sense. There was a need outside of him, and his gifts served it very well. It's easy to look at people in jobs like that, or maybe higher ups in churches or politics, and to say these things, but it's true of all of us. Look around at the ways that people are serving people, whether they're being paid to do it or not, whether it's a job or not. You're seeing people living into their vocation, using who they were created to be to serve one another in the world. Whatever you do, doing it as you, as the child of God that you are, that is what we are called to. I told you at the beginning that I did not love to write. I had to do it. I could do it well, but I didn't really want to do it. Well, fast forward to now, and I actually kind of started to love writing, to enjoy it. Not because I have to, but because I grew and I changed in the last 12-ish years, all right? We're all growing and changing, even if you don't believe it or see it yet. And the world around us is changing. So that inner call and outer call are going to continue to change. So take your time. Never stop paying attention to what is there. Embrace who God made you to be and keep exploring how it is your pieces fit into this world, because they do. Amen.